Some major developments are happening right now in Israel, threatening to send the nation into chaos. A new front in nuclear escalation is playing out as Russia has made some very significant decisions. An infrastructure issue in Philadelphia is impacting the local citizens, serving as a reminder to us within the preparedness community. Plus, several tornadoes have hit the South, and I'll share with you how a fellow preparedness YouTube channel is serving those communities and how you can help. Plus, we're going to announce the last winner of the giveaway, plus the new one, and how you can enroll. There's a lot to cover, so let's jump in. Israel. Politics in Israel are as complex as calculus, and I don't pretend to understand all the nuances of it. As an outside observer, I can only tell you the most apparent and above the surface happenings. There's plenty there. After giving you a high-level overview, let's discuss why this all matters. So on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he fired their defense minister Yoav Gallant, triggering a mass protest a day after Gallant broke ranks with the government and urged a halt to the highly contested plan to overhaul the judicial system. Now, the judicial overhaul Netanyahu is pushing through would tighten his party's control of the judicial appointments. Now, the defense minister, a former Navy admiral, he broke with his party and called such a move a clear and immediate and tangible threat to the security of the state. And that was just all on Sunday. And then chaos erupted. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets, reservists refused to train, and businesses and financial leaders, they sharply criticized the judicial reform plans. Protesters were targeted by water cannons outside of Netanyahu's residence after breaking through a security point. Flights from Ben Gurion Airport were grounded, and seaports, banks, hospitals, and medical services, they were also set to stop work as the head of the National Labor Union, Histadrut, called for a general strike to stop the judicial overhaul going ahead. Now, Netanyahu responded to this massive public outburst by suspending the immediately planned reforms and then pushing them to the next month in their parliament. This prompted the union to suspend its planned strikes. And the violent reaction did not spurn the prime minister's reversal of the termination yet. Still, it did garner an agreement to put the overhaul measure before the entire Knesset, the unicameral legislature of Israel, where Netanyahu and his allies control 64 of the 120 seats. Now, while that is a majority sufficient for the passage, the Likud party, which holds a majority, is fractured, as evidenced by the defense minister splitting off from his public support from the prime minister. Now, Netanyahu has already been under investigation for multiple charges of bribery and corruption, so he has anything but complete, unfettered support. So why does this all matter? Israel is a wild card in the Middle East. They are fighting a war against Iran, even though the war has not been officially declared. The Iran-Israel proxy war has far too many chapters to delve into here, but suffice it to say that it has been going on for decades. Now, the Islamic State of Iran radicalized Hezbollah against Israel and Lebanon, and they are attempting to create a new radicalized group against Israel and Syria. Israel's often extreme measures have them actively engaged in the conflict in Syria. And as we reported last week, given the Russian jets are buzzing over the U.S. outposts in Syria, this war is poised to explode into a much greater degree at any moment. The U.S. and Europe will need a strong Israel. Now, without digressing too much into Middle East politics, which is more complex than calculus, Israel has acted as a buffer between the rest of the world's engagement in the more significant conflict. Their F-35s have conducted missions in Iranian airspace. They allegedly were behind the drone attacks on military installations in Iran. And they can be directly credited for stalling and occasionally derailing Iran's nuclear ambitions. Now, for Iran's part, they've publicly called for the annihilation of Israel on multiple occasions, and they've offered material support and trained to groups and countries bordering Israel to wage a continual assault on Israel. The region is a bit of a mess, to say the least. As Russia seeks material and strategic support from the Islamic State of Iran, it will likely seek to instigate or encourage further conflict in Syria. And this could draw into the fight U.S. forces, either in defense of themselves or in support of Israel. As of February of 2020-21, around 900 U.S. soldiers are operating in Syria, according to the U.S. Department of Defense. Last week, a suspected Iranian-made drone killed a U.S. contractor and wounded 5 American troops and another contractor in northeast Syria. American forces said they retaliated soon after with precision airstrikes in Syria, targeting facilities used by groups affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Now, the U.S. mission in Syria is a bit murky at best. The nearly 8-year-old U.S. deployment to Syria is to combat Islamic State. Now, Islamic State is a remnant of the group that ruled over a third of Syria and Iraq in a caliphate declared in 2014. Hundreds of fighters are still camped in desolate areas where neither the U.S.-led coalition nor the Syrian army, with support from Russia and Iranian-backed militias, exert control. The area is another giant powder keg waiting to explode. And Russia would obviously love nothing better than to open another conflict on this front with Iran's help. The only real headway militarily is being made by Israeli strikes in the area, as U.S. forces are reluctant to engage too directly. Now, without Israel as a bellicose buffer in the area, there is little doubt that U.S. forces would come under ever-increasing attack from Russian, Iranian, and Syrian-backed forces. And at the moment, Netanyahu may have calmed the situation by pushing the judicial reform measures to the Knesset meeting next month. And this could just be a temporary peace. More upheaval and the widening social rift in the country are possible. We're going to continue to monitor this, but what do you think? Is the Middle East unraveling or simply just playing through another chapter of the usual never-ending conflict? Let us know your insights and opinions in the comments section below. Russia, Ukraine. Russia's latest threat against the West is to move nuclear weapons back into Belarus. Putin said the plan was in response to Britain's decision this past week to provide Ukraine with armor-piercing rounds containing depleted uranium. Now, it's a move Putin has planned for some time, as the construction of the storage facilities are going to be completed around the beginning of July. Now, Putin likened his plans to the U.S. stationing its weapons in Europe while insisting that Russia would not violate its nuclear non-proliferation promises. Many don't realize that Belarus actually housed Soviet nuclear weapons in the past, but they surrendered them to Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the 1990s. Now, of course, that was a time before hypersonic missiles in this current Ukrainian conflict. Today, a hypersonic nuclear missile launched from Belarus to Warsaw would reach its intended altitude and target a position in less than a minute. This is a prominent cause of alarm for NATO and Western forces, as Putin's intending it to be. The reaction has been swift. Lithuania has called for new sanctions against Russia and Belarus, which, so far, skirted the harshest of sanctions through directly supporting Russia in its war efforts. The Minister of Defense of Lithuania called Putin's announcement nothing more than a distraction meant to sow division amongst the West. He noted that the placement of nuclear weapons in Belarus only shows Putin's fears about the strengthening of NATO forces on the eastern flank after the start of the war against Ukraine. It is true that when Putin goes nuclear with his threats, he seems to harden the resolve of NATO and the West while creating no off-ramps for himself out of the Ukraine war or on the world stage. Ukraine has demanded an emergency U.S. meeting over Putin's nuclear plan, what they call nuclear blackmail. Now, one Ukrainian official said that Russia took Belarus as a nuclear hostage. NATO condemned and criticized Russia for what it called further dangerous and irresponsible nuclear rhetoric. Neither NATO nor the U.S. Defense Department has noted any changes in Russia's current nuclear posture. Now, beyond the condemning rhetoric of the West, and perhaps more alarming to Russia, the four Nordic countries of Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark, they've agreed to operate their roughly 250 fighter jets in one fleet. Now, under the umbrella of unified Nordic air defense, these modern air forces include sophisticated F-35 fighter jets. One of the many reasons Vladimir Putin cited as justification for his invasion of Ukraine has been NATO's enlargement since the Cold War. His invasion of Ukraine has accelerated NATO's growth, and the Turkish Parliamentary Committee has just approved Finland's entry into NATO. The committee will now submit its decision to the General Assembly, which is expected to debate and ratify the protocol before mid-April. Even without Sweden's entry into NATO and even before Finland's entry is ultimately approved, this Nordic air defense will not bode well for Putin, nor indicate to his people and Russia's oligarchs that the war waged in Ukraine is having the desired effect for Russia's long-term security. As we indicated in earlier videos, it would become necessary for Western countries to develop a more aggressive stance, not solely rely on supporting Ukraine through leftovers and remnants. This is true from a material needs standpoint and an economic standpoint of developing a war posture in the economy. And to this end, the Polish ammunition manufacturer Desmut is set to drastically increase its ammunition production capacity to provide adequate supplies in Ukraine. 19 EU countries and Norway, they've agreed to jointly produce and purchase ammunition to replenish their stockpiles and meet Ukraine's needs. And the plan will provide Ukraine with 1 million pieces of artillery ammunition over 12 months. And for Germany's part, the 18 Leopard 2 battle tanks that they pledge to support Ukraine in its war against Russia have arrived in Ukraine. The German army trained the Ukrainian tank crews and its troops assigned to operate the Marder vehicles for several weeks on training grounds in northern Germany. Additionally, 3 more Leopard tanks have reached Ukraine via Portugal. The Leopard 2 tank is considered one of the best tanks in the West arsenal, and having nearly 24 in active service in Ukraine's defense will be problematic for Russian forces. Germany also announced it plans to expel more than 30 Russian diplomats it accuses of seeking to recruit as informers, Germans who work in politics, business, science, and the armed forces as agents or to conduct sabotage operation and disinformation campaigns. North Macedonia is debating whether to transfer 12 of their Mi-24 attack helicopters to Ukraine. That decision will come later this month. Currently, Ukraine is only operating 2 Mi-24s, but has used helicopters for deep infiltration campaigns and operations far behind the front lines and in the Russian territory. The air campaign in this conflict has been challenging for either side to establish. The transfer of these helicopters is mainly symbolic, especially since they're reaching the end of their usability lifetime. This primarily land-based war may be taking its toll on Russia, and a new Russian campaign is attempting to lure Russian men to join the war effort. Promising cash bonuses and enticing benefits, recruiters are making cold calls to eligible men throughout the country. Moscow hopes to avoid the fallout from a more significant mobilization, the first being widely unpopular and resulting in tens of thousands of draft-age men fleeing across Russian borders. Now, this campaign offers around a $3,800 sign-up bonus, a monthly salary $2,500 if sent to Ukraine, $100 per day if actively involved in offensive operations, and $650 for each kilometer of advancement within an assault team. Now, signing up to fight in Ukraine would also provide tax and loan repayment breaks, preferential university admission status for children, compensation for the family if wounded or killed in action, and the status of a war veteran, which carries even more perks. Now, it's really questionable whether the lucrative incentives will have any real impact after 13 months of a war that has already killed and wounded tens of thousands. President Zelensky has said that he sent a straight message through diplomatic channels that he wanted to talk to Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Now, China's position on the conflict and its recent warming to Russia, as evidenced by Xi Jinping and Putin's meeting last week, they've complicated any meetings with Ukraine. Though some type of meeting may occur in the future because China hopes to maintain a persona as a peacekeeper and dealmaker of the world, any meeting would likely not result in really any actionable items. China's loyalties are wherever the greatest economic benefit can be had, and right now that's in Russia. Philly water. We repeatedly emphasize on this channel the need for food and water resources. While major headlines tip us off to theoretical threats that we may face in the future, it's critical that folks continue to prep the essentials they need in place to meet their most immediate and pressing threats. There has been another industrial accident that resulted in a chemical spill in the Delaware River. The city of Philadelphia stated that it is confident that the drinking water from the Baxter Drinking Water Treatment Plant will remain safe to drink until at least 11:59 p.m. on Monday. Now, they further assured that there is no contamination in Philadelphia's current drinking water supply. Wink, wink. As a result of an equipment failure, a latex product chemical spill occurred. An estimated 8,100 gallons of a half water and half latex polymer solution spilled into the Delaware River. Though the EPA is on the scene and the city of Philadelphia is testing the water and assuring the public, this incident is just one of the many nationwide. Absent tests being performed, or in this case, a visible underwater cloudy plume to reveal the true extent of the spill, the 2 million people who rely upon clean water in Philadelphia, Montgomery, Delaware, and the Bucks counties, they're all left wondering if it's truly safe to drink the water. Now, the much larger spill in East Palestine is still an ongoing situation. More than 1.6 million gallons of contaminants and contaminated water associated with the derailment have been removed from the area, and well water test results are still pending. While that's positive news, it doesn't even take a gallon of the chemical spill to seriously and permanently harm one's health. Now, these larger scale industrial accidents have existed since the Industrial Revolution, so they will continue to happen in the future. They should underscore for you the sincere need for stored water and the ability to treat, purify, and filter water, whether you rely upon a municipal water supply or you pull water from a well with a crane. These incidents should encourage you to have a supply of water on hand to endure whatever disasters come your way and a means of precipitation collection, assuming a toxic cloud isn't overhead. I would encourage you to please take a moment to review our video playlist on water. There you're going to find over 15 different videos on this essential prep. Giveaway. For this week's giveaway, we're going to give away a Gerber survival knife. And to be eligible for a chance to win, just simply post a comment below and click the like button. Next week, I'll use a tool to draw a winner from the comments of this video randomly. I'm not going to reach out to you unless your name appears on the screen next week. And you must have your email address listed on the About tab of your YouTube profile. Please ignore reporting comments telling you that you won or to contact me through WhatsApp or Telegram because it's not me. For the last video's winner of the Water Drop Gravity Water Filter, it was the subscriber Jerry Chilton. I'll reach out to you shortly to get that sent to you. Storms. Last week through the newsletter and our videos, I warn people to avoid getting caught up in theoretical threats happening around the world at the expense of the real and immediate threats faced daily. The atmospheric rivers flooding California and snowing in people in the mountains head east with the jet stream, and that is bringing extreme weather to a swath across the country. California's Central Coast, also referred to as America's Salad Bowl, for the amount of lettuce, strawberries, and broccoli, among other crops, is looking more like a soup bowl as of late. Now, even though the multi-decade mega drought continues, there is such a thing as too much rain too often, and California is experiencing its 12th major atmospheric river of storms since Christmas, drenching the land. Acre after acre of strawberries and lettuces are literally underwater at a time when farmers should be getting ready for harvesting. Now, while the state grows about half of all the fruit and vegetables for the entire country, Monterey County alone is responsible for over $4 billion in revenue, primarily through strawberries, lettuce, and broccoli. You can expect higher prices and shortages of these staples to continue throughout this year. Though the rainfall wouldn't be enough to top off the aquifers, it's filling up the reservoirs, thankfully. And for the rest of this country, this extreme weather is going to continue to move east. 30 million Southerners were at risk of dangerous weather this last Sunday, and tornadoes and storms killed 26 people. An EF4 tornado touched down in Georgia, destroying around 40 homes and damaging about 100. Storm threats included the possibility of strong tornadoes, hell the size of tennis balls, and damaging wind gusts of up to 70 miles an hour. Mississippi's Rolling Fork and Silvery City tornado was also an EF4 with wind gusts up to 200 miles per hour. By the weekend, the death toll has risen to 25 people. Residents in the tornado's paths across the state have been left without shelter, food, and necessities. And if you do want to help in any way, TJ Morris of the YouTube channel Bear Independent and his team, they're going to the impacted areas. I believe they're already there now. They are asking for volunteers and help. Now, if you would like to help, please visit their website, Grindstone Ministries, and you can click on the Contact Us button to reach them directly. Now, even if you aren't in the position to help, please let these recent events underscore your need to establish your essential preps. If you live in a hurricane or tornado or earthquake or storm or blizzard zone, you need to first prepare as if these extreme events aren't always going to be in the next county over. One or more extreme events will strike where you live, and perhaps more than just once in your lifetime. The time to prepare for that inevitable event is now. Now, a lot of times I always tell people on this channel, the best time to prepare was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year. But again, if you're just starting out, the best time to prepare is now. And I know it can feel overwhelming for a lot of people. I've done several videos on this subject matter before where people coming into this community now are beginning to look around and they see everything that's happening. And the question always comes up, is it too late to prepare? So much is happening. I'm so behind. Am I ever going to get caught up? The short answer is yes, you have time. It's never too late to prepare. I've been doing this for years and I still feel like I have a ways to go, and there's so many more things I want to do. And I plan to get there one day and achieve these different milestones that I've set for myself. But I don't get discouraged. And I want to encourage you in the same way. Don't allow yourself to feel like a victim. There's a lot that's happening, but this is why I love preparedness. It takes away the feeling of being just vulnerable and hey, I'm at the mercy of whatever, because that's just not the case. Preparedness brings you to a place of, I believe, security, and it gives you the tools necessary to survive any incident. Again, with everything happening in the world, the more I talk to people, the more I always have people come over and whisper in my ear or tell me like, yeah, I've been preparing, I've been storing food away, I've been taking action. It's always encouraging when I meet people randomly. I tell people what I do and to hear their stories that, yeah, people are taking this serious. And that's my encouragement to you as well. Take the time that you have now and take advantage of it. As always, stay safe out there.